Another successful day in the trenches. Made it out alive. Hi, I'm Ryan. These are my thoughts in cars. It's about being 50 in 2025. I started a YouTube channel as a hobby, well, to have a hobby when I retire, which is kind of what I wanted to talk about today. I wanted to talk about retirement. Maybe you were one of those lucky few, or rare few, I don't know if you're lucky, one of the rare few who had a job and worked it for 25, 30 years and are getting a really good pension out of it. And are spending your last, I don't know, 5-10 years just sacking money away and buying things. Because that's, buying things outright, so you don't have payments when you're retired. Because I watched boomers do that. I never really worked with a whole bunch of people who worked at a job for 20-30 years. I'd meet them every now and again. My age. But the boomers, there was a lot of people like that. So I got to watch them, the process of going into retirement from a trade. So I've worked with tradesmen my whole life. And generally what it would be, and even the guys who, even the guys who didn't work a job but were sacking money away while they were doing their trade, not necessarily for a company or anything, but just as a tradesman. Just, a bunch of, I don't know, 5 to 10 years before their retirement date, they would buy something new, like a car or a travel trailer, right? And spend the next 5 to 10 years paying it off, so that when they retired, they didn't have the payments, right? Because your pension or your retirement pay is not as much as a real job.
Pardon me.
Cancelled. This guy. What's he doing? Sorry, I got trouble on the highway here. Yeah, so my retirement, my age, millennials, Gen Z, I guess. Like, I'm 50. And I don't know. I've never worked at a job for more than... worked for a company. I don't know, more than... I'm not sure. Like, I did work for the federal government, but I wasn't an actual employee. I was a contractor. Well, I was on contracts. I was an employee of the federal government, but I was only working under contracts. And there were short-term contracts. And then every time my contract would end, I'd get paid out my pension and everything. And then I would go sign a new contract, work the contract time, and then at the end, it'd all be paid out. And so I don't have a government pension for working for the federal government. And to be honest with you, that pension money that I got at the end, I could not, well, I could have, I guess, but the cost of living where I was living in BC rose so much, so fast, that the wage they were paying me wasn't enough. So I ended up spending that pension money. Not on frivolous things. That's the odd thing. It wasn't on frivolous things. You know, rent was paid, car payments were made, gas was paid, food was paid. But slowly towards the end, it stopped paying rent. My wage stopped being able to pay rent. And I mean, when I got those checks, I would do things like I would go buy shoes. I would go buy clothes. I'd go buy work clothes. I'd go buy, regular clothes to wear. And I would pay off, credit card debt, student loan debt. So retirement is, I don't have any, basically. I gotta make it up here in the next 10 years. 10, 15 years. Which is gonna be really difficult here in Canada. Because I think all I'll end up with is like my CPP, Canada Pension Plan, and old age security. And I don't think none of that is gonna pay for living in Canada. I really don't. My parents, my dad just retired. My mom retired quite a while ago, but my dad retired last year, and they couldn't afford to stay in BC on the island. We had to move to a cheaper place, which is here in Alberta. And even now, I mean, they cannot afford where we're living, and it's really cheap. It's really cheap. Like, here's the thing. So I work at seniors' homes, and along with that, there is subsidized seniors' housing, like independent living, and it's subsidized by the government. And I asked the managers, I said, so like, how much does it cost to live in these things? Like, if somebody were to bring their parent here and drop them off, what's the cost? And they said, well, depends which room, but whatever. But the manors, the independent living, they're about $1,600 a month. Okay? It's basically a one-bedroom, compact, one-bedroom suite built in the 1970s. I remember looking at these crappy apartments, like the same style, same. They were bad apartments when I was young, in my 20s, looking for my first apartment. And nothing's changed, right? Still the hot water heating, still the crappy 2x4 construction. I could go on and on. It's just, it's all old and dilapidated, right? I mean, we clean them up and we fix them and all of that. Still, the thing is that it's not highfalutin living. It's not even reasonable up to modern standard living, right? I think in one of the manors, they still have the furnaces. They tried to put in the Nest, the Google Nest thing or whatever. None of these old people can figure it out. I can't even figure it out. Anyway, $1,600 a month. Then you're paying for your food, and then a vehicle if you got one. And you pretty much do where we are out here. You do need a vehicle because there is no grocery stores within walking distance. And that's pretty scary, because what my parents are paying for living out where we are is pretty much the same rent, $1,600 a month. Now, how it works with the subsidized thing. Basically, you file with the government, they take everything and leave you with a base working amount of money, which is, so if you make less than that $1,600 a month, or that's what you make and you get subsidized, they just take all the money and then they give you a $300 and something for the month for your own needs, right? Because I think there's a food program too in the assisted care. So the rent is basically the same. It's like $1,600 for a room. And so it's for the big ones, the one bedroom. They're nice. They're really nice. And then you can go on the food program, which is another. I can't remember what she said, but it was like $350. Basically, the numbers worked out to all the money goes to them. If your pension is about $1,600 a month, right? Now, here's the deal. So my parents' rent is like just over $1,600 a month, and they still have to heat it. They still have to pay for electricity every month. The food bills are astronomical. A large car payment with gas and insurance. Like there is no room for extras like buying clothes, replacing shoes, which is a very scary thought. Because my dad retired from working for the federal government. He's got a federal government pension. He's got his Canada pension plan. He's got his old age security. He's got my mom's old age security. My mom's little pension that she's got. And the numbers, they just don't add up. We're basically surviving out here. I don't know, I'm going to talk about this on my other channel, but to get rid of your regular car, your brand new car, and get rid of your gross monthly payment, whatever it is, $800 a month or whatever, $900 a month, whatever your car payment, brand new car payment, because they're all going to be like that. That's just the run of the mill. And you get an old car that you I don't know who's got cash to do that. To get something otherwise, I don't know. You got to buy. Finding something $3,000 to $5,000, you're buying a piece of junk, right? You're going to be constantly fixing it. You're going to be constantly fixing it. It doesn't matter what kind of old car you get. You're going to be constantly fixing it. And the thing is that it gives you surprise bills. But on the other hand, a brand new car they're doing the same thing. They'll shut down on you. Brand new cars. You're having to replace engines now. You're having to replace transmissions within 10,000 or 50,000 kilometers on new cars, brand new cars. And they're not built to go past 100,000. So, you're always going to be paying for a car of some sort. And when you live rural, you're living cheaper, but you have to have a transportation. You have to you have to pay for that. You have to be able to pay for that. Because there is no subsistence living for the majority of people. You can't just hunt and fish and trap and grow your own vegetables. Even in the old days when they did stuff like that, they still had to make runs to town for flour and things, sugar. So retirement here is looking, I don't know, pretty bleak because the cost of living is so high here in North America. Unless you're making over $200K a year. And they're retiring off of that. That 200,000 plus K, 200K plus a year job for the last 10, 15 years, that would set you pretty good. Yeah. I was told RSPs are the way to go when I was in school. And I started putting money in RSPs, and then I found out I wasn't making any money on them, and then I found you get taxed twice when you're using them, and then I just said no, and then everybody said, I don't know, I got a 401k at Costco, and I remember when I quit, they kept it. I remember going back and asking for that 401k, because I worked there for 3 years or something. And I said, like, I quit, but yeah. And they said, no, we kept it. We absorbed it. And I'm like, well, that's part of the deal of working here. I get that money from that, isn't it? He said, no. I was like, I think that's illegal. I think there was a time limit probably on it. I don't know. I remember pulling my pension out of the union, and then I had a divorce. Well, no, I had the divorce, and then I had to pull the pension because I was quitting the union and I was moving across the country. And then I had to, pay the X out of some of that. Then I took hits on taxes for that. And I spent like a year and a half paying back those taxes because I pulled that thing. Anywho, yeah, what's retirement look for you? How does it look for you? Let me know in the comments. Are you going to be retiring in Canada? Here, that's a good question. Would you retire in Canada? Or would you retire in the US or some other country? Because I don't think this is it. I'm watching these boomers that I work for in these suites and stuff, and I'm like, they're the same pension as my parents, basically. It'll be the similar pension that I'll get when I'm retiring. And they're like in poverty. It is. Kind of scary. I gotta look into that. But yeah, let me know if you're staying in Canada to retire, or you're gonna wait and see, or you got plans to move to a different country. That'd be interesting. All right, thanks for listening. I'll see you on the next one.